Aimée, welcome to Diaspora Food Stories. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and I'm fine.
Awesome, awesome. So you are joining us from Sweden.
Correct, Stockholm.
Yes, yes. I'm so excited to sort of dig into just who you are as a person. But then we also came together, found each other on social media in regards to your work with Ghana Food Movement. So I'm excited to also dig into that as well. So thank you for joining me.
Definitely.
Awesome. So let's just share a little bit more about your background. Because as we said, you're joining us from Sweden. So share a little bit more about you.
Sure. So I grew up in Sweden. My mom is Swedish, but my father is from Mali in West Africa.
Mhm,
So growing up, I was with my mom here in Sweden, but I was always visiting my dad and my half siblings
mhm.
in Mali, my grandma in Mali, and so on. So I've gotten a very interesting upbringing, a mix of different cultures. But one big thing about my upbringing is that I had the chance to go to Mali a lot and have a connection to West Africa that I value so much.
Awesome. If you don't mind me asking, how did your parents meet?
They met in Paris, actually. They were both studying in France. Yeah, they met in Paris, and I came after a few years.
Awesome. So food wise, are we tell us about what you were eating in Sweden and then when you were going to Mali, what you were eating there?
Sure, sure. I love thinking about food memories. And that's a question I love, like just throwing out, like around the table if I'm sitting and having dinner with new people, for example, for people to really tell their food memories. So I'm going to give you one from Sweden and one from Mali.
Okay.
And this is something I just told a friend actually. But in Sweden, when I was living with my mom,
Mhm.
uh, we had a lot of cute things that we always did. And one thing was that every time I came home from school, in Sweden, we eat a lot of dry bread, like rye bread.
Mhm.
Um, and we put butter and cheese and cucumber. That's a very standard thing to put.
Mhm.
But when I was young, my mom was really trying for me to learn French as well, because in Mali, we speak French.
Okay.
So she had all these different methods for, keeping me practicing my French. And one thing was that every day after school, when we were on our way home, I had to tell her in French that I
Mhm.
wanted that specific sandwich. So I had to say, je veux un sandwich avec du beurre, du fromage et de concombre. And then when I said it right, I got my favorite afternoon snack. So that was a very
Oh,
Swedish food memory.
I
And
love
then,
that.
and then in Mali, it's the afternoons and the evenings at my grandma's place, just like everyone coming together and cooking massive pots and cooking so much food together. And then, if we were lucky at grandma's place, we got some coins to go out on the street and buy farini. So it's like in Ghana we call it bofrot. So it's like a donut, and I'm sure you have it. Like in black food cultures,
Mhm.
they do that a lot, like fried donuts. But the
Almost like
farini,
a day or something like that, or
exactly, it's like exactly like a beignet, but the
Mhm.
farinese is smaller like this, and you can get them with sugar, or you can get it with onion and tomatoes. It's like a savory and a sweet option, and that was my favorite snack. So every time I was at my grandma's place, I always, hoped that we would get to go and get some farinese to eat.
Oh, I love that, and I really love how your mom makes sure that you were immersed in both cultures. I really love that, and so just keeping because language is so important to knowing about food, right? Of any culture. So definitely love that. Where did you go to school? Where did you study?
So I actually went to first like a normal Swedish school, and then, or are you talking about like university or all the way?
University. Mhm.
Sorry. Okay, I'll take that back. So I studied in Sweden as well. I did my bachelor in political science with a focus on crisis and conflict.
Mhm.
And then for my master's, I studied human security in Denmark. And that was the first time I really got into agroecology, food security, and food sovereignty as concepts.
Mhm.
And from there on, that's how I kind of went towards food. And
Mhm.
then I went to Ghana and I met with Ghana Food Movement, and now I'm all food. And it's really the nexus of food, politics, and environments. Like somewhere in between there is where you find me, and that's where, like, where I like I'm so passionate to
Wow.
learn,
So
discover.
how did you get, or what was your journey into sort of looking at systems, political systems, or just that world and that lens? Sounds like maybe food wasn't in the picture at that time,
No,
but there was, but at the same time, you were looking for to play a role in, that arena.
exactly. No, that's true. So my father, he works with like conflict and security. So that's why I was very
Mm,
I wanted to follow his footsteps. I was interested in the United Nations and that kind of work. Um but then and I've always been political in the sense that like there are better ways that we can live on this earth to
right.
be more empathic to other people and to our nature, and
Mm,
like understanding that we can't do this like me game. We need to
right.
we need to take care of each other. So, and I think that is like a Swedish mentality as well, quite socialistic.
Mm,
um so that I got from Sweden, also like the environment, being an environmentalist, also from Sweden and from my mom. And then yeah, always being interested in those topics. And when I found food and I realized that all of those topics ties into food and even conflict, because food is also used as a weapon.
right.
It's also used as a way of um like protecting someone from joining an armed group, for example, if you have food on your table. So I understood what power food had, and also like the power food has for development, especially in Africa.
Mhm.
And I realized that all the other interests I was in, like all the other topics I was interested in, I could also connect it to food. So then food
Wow.
just became the my center of attention.
Awesome. So let's talk about how you got connected to Ghana food movement.
Sure, sure. So I first came to Ghana 5 years ago. During my bachelor, I was studying an exchange semester in Cape Coast.
Okay.
And there I met amazing people. I was studying global environmental studies, and the courses were really focused on like communities versus companies, communities versus politicians who don't care, like that justice, concepts of justice. And it was very, very fascinating and interesting to understand. And from there I fell in love with Ghana, actually. So I needed to be in Ghana, and I wanted to be in Ghana, and I started to plan how I could actually move to Ghana. And then during my masters, we had the chance for the last year to do an internship and to write a thesis. So from the first day of my masters, I told my professors that I'm not gonna be here the last year because I'm gonna be in Ghana, and they were like, "Okay, sure, like let's see if you find, so like a context." And I was like, "Don't worry about that. I'm just telling you, I'm not gonna be here for long." And said and done, I found Ghana Food Movement because this was during COVID time. So I went to Ghana to kind of scout for an internship,
Mhm.
and I met someone that was working for Ghana Food Movement on a beach in the western region of Ghana. And
Wow.
even then, when I heard about Ghana Food Movement, I was like, this is interesting, but I was still like very attached to the fact that I wanted to do something with conflict and security. So
Mhm.
I had it in mind, but I wasn't so sure. And then this person, Pauline, she called me 2 weeks after we had met, and she said, like, are you sure you should come? Like you need an internship. Why don't you do it with us? And she explained more about the movement. And I was like, okay, I want to go to Ghana. It's getting quite like soon. So I'm just gonna take this internship. And then who could have known that like it was perfectly right for me, and now I'm still in it, and that was 3 years ago.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit, explain for our listeners what exactly is food or Ghana food movement.
Sure. So we are an NGO, a non-profit, and a members network. So a group of foodies started to organize in Accra 2019. So farmers, chefs, academia, journalists, restaurant owners, and they realized that there were so many topics that they needed to discuss, so many things going wrong in our food system, and so much potential in our food system.
Mhm.
And at the time when I joined in 2021, we were this group of people who said that okay, we've started to organize. We had done some events. We did meetups and all of these things, but we
Mhm.
thought this could actually become something bigger. So then when I joined, and Abdallah, who is now my co-director, that is when we started the process of registering as a Ghanaian NGO, establishing our structures, writing more grants, getting more projects in, to the point that we are now, drum roll, building our first hub, our first kitchen, our first space in Accra. So it's really been a journey of establishing Ghana food movement. And it's I've never worked for a startup, but I like to compare it with like working for a startup because oops, am I freezing?
You did. You did.
But you are not freezing for me though. But I'm freezing for myself.
And you're frozen on my screen as well.
That's very strange.
Let's see here. I'm gonna do this. You still there? Let me see.
Yeah, I still hear you very well.
Okay.
Should I reload?
Yeah, go ahead.
Will it save still what we have so far?
Why don't you, yeah, it's still recording. So why don't you exit out and then come back to the same link? And I've made
Okay.
a note in terms of where we broke, where to stop for
Yeah.
the editing. Yep, I made a note. Okay, how's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Looking good.
Sounds good. So what let's repeat the question if you don't mind. I'm going
Sure,
to repeat the part about, and sorry to have you repeat it, but
sure,
just sharing what Ghana Food Movement is. Okay.
sure.
Amy, can you share a little bit more about what actually Ghana Food Movement is?
Sure. So Ghana Food Movement is a non-profit organization based in Ghana and a members network. So a group of foodies started to organize in 2019, and they did meetups and some events because they realized that Ghana's food system has so much potential and so much to offer
Mhm.
to Ghanaians and to the world, but there are some very, very big challenges. And since then, we've been really working on establishing Ghana Food Movement as a professional organization. We got registered as an NGO in 2021. And now we are building a food education hub. So it's been a crazy journey, and it's really, really exciting. And
Um,
our it's very hard to explain like in a concise ways because we do a lot of things, but we do have three focus areas.
okay.
So that is youth capacity building, network building in the food system, and food industry development. So we do programs, events, members meetups, educational programs in line with these three big topics.
Awesome. And then how big is the movement or the network?
So we're 150 members, both
Okay.
individuals and businesses. And we also have a big youth program where we onboard about 50 youth per year to get trained and connected to companies. But it's a food movement and it's open for everyone. So whether you're a member or not, everyone who's doing something positive for the environment, for nutrition, for our biodiversity is part of the movement.
Awesome. And one of the things anyone will probably hear me say in a variety of interviews, if you've heard me speak before, is just the excitement that's going on the continent in terms of just really having, you know, residents and citizens really owning back their skills, the land, just all of that indigenous knowledge and all of that. And so I'm, from over here in the US, just love seeing that energy that's going on. So share a little bit more about just the excitement of everyone just really coming together and just reclaiming and just moving forward and saying, we're here. Ghana is here.
Exactly. And it's these creative entrepreneurs, it's the youth that are so passionate, and there's just an abundance of ideas and resources if you just get a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of you know um, advice from one another. Like, we can do that together. And for us, we are really trying to be a network because we know who we are up against. It's the big multinational food companies, it's the politicians who have other agendas than their citizens' health and our soil's health and our nature and animals' health. So together we are trying to stand strong as one united front against these bad guys that they actually are and that we are up against. And it's actually working. I think that is what is really exciting, that every day so the network is actually as simple as a WhatsApp group, and
Okay.
every day people ask for advice and ask for questions and get it answered. And I just think, like, it just makes me like so proud every single time I get these WhatsApp notifications. Someone saying that they just harvested mangoes and they're looking for off takers. Someone answering that yes, they know a jam company that needs mango, to someone saying that they need to um hire a farm manager, to a youth saying that they're looking for a job. Like, it's just all those connections that we make with Ghana Food Movement, and that I'm actually able to make also as an individual in Ghana Food Movement. That wherever I go and wherever I network, like, I'm always trying to put people together, youth to companies, farmers to restaurants. Like, that's how we can evolve our food system, by really being connected.
Awesome. And then I know obviously the movement is centered in Accra and in Ghana. So speaking of that, how is it? Do you have members within Ghana outside of Accra? So how is across the
Yes.
country?
Yes, and that's absolutely very important for us because of our resources. For now, most of our events have been like in and around Accra,
Mhm.
but it's really important for us that we can have hubs in Kumasi, in Tamale, and northern Ghana as well. And when we do go, we try to organize meetups. And last year we went to Tamale, which is northern Ghana, and we organized a meetup that we just advertised on our social media. And we had 40 people show up
Nice.
to a restaurant, just to show that, like, these are people that want to connect. They want to talk about our food system. They want to talk about what change we can make together. So that is definitely bubbling up and coming more and more. Yeah.
Okay. What about, I know, just really making sure the work is centered on Ghana and just really making sure everything is nice and tight there, right? Plans in the future to go over the border into other countries and just sort of build that network too?
Yeah, or inspire. It doesn't have to be us doing it, but if we can build a model in Ghana that works for us, like showing how strong a network can be, and
Mhm,
also what that network can be with the right resources, such
mhm.
as a facility and seed funding and all of that. I think we could set a really good example for other organizations and other people doing similar things, which they are already doing. Of
Right.
course, there are great movements in Nigeria, There are great initiatives in Senegal as well. So
Mhm.
for us, it's about connecting with those people already doing similar things, and us, of course, becoming a West African food movement. That is the goal, but not that we would be doing all of those food
Right.
movements, but just by connecting, by way of connecting, we are just building the movement stronger. And because we share so much within West Africa, and every time I travel, like to Mali, or I was recently in Senegal, I realized that we share so much food culture and ecology, but there's still so much to learn from each other, and there's so many different ways we do our snacks and ways we do our recipes and things we don't use, that in Senegal they use.
Right.
Fonio, for example, fonio is grown in most parts of West Africa, but it's much more eaten in Senegal and Mali, for example,
Mhm.
although it's a very nutritious, very climate resilient grain. So I
Right.
think in Ghana we have a lot to learn about some specific ingredients that other West African countries value and use more, and the same might be the other way around. So that knowledge exchange is super important.
Wonderful. So let's get into your project that you're working on in terms of the kitchen, the food hub. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes. So 2 years ago, we managed to get funds from a company, a Dutch chocolate company, actually, who sources their cocoa from Ghana, and we got them to support our biggest dream, which was to have a hub, to have a kitchen where all the creativity, all the innovation, and all the networking and meeting people can happen. So
Mm.
that is the kitchen that we are building in Osu, an area in Accra. And it's really going to be Ghana Food Movement's hub. It's going to be where we train youth in culinary skills, hospitality skills, and product development skills, and also where our network comes together.
Mhm.
And to have everything like go around, we are going to have business models, and it's going to allow us to have business models to become more self-sustained, because as you know, in the nonprofit world, like it's always money is always an issue, and we have so many ideas, we have so many passionate people that are hardworking, but doesn't matter if we can't get it funded, right?
Absolutely.
So we'll be finally we will be able to have some business models. We will be renting out the kitchen. We will be doing cooking classes. We'll be hosting events for companies. So to allow us to at least become a bit more self-sustained.
I
So
love
it's
that.
big for us. It's a very, very big thing.
And so I know there's the funding period going on, and we know, between, funding and construction and all of that, we give a time, but it is what it is. But tentatively, when are we looking at having that launch?
So we're looking at October, early October to launch, because the actual building and its construction is already funded,
Okay.
and that will be done in August. So what now we're currently fundraising for 100,000 euros to be able to equip the kitchen with professional kitchenware and all the furnishing of the rest of the building. So it's a kitchen, it's an event space, and
Nice.
then there's a first floor with offices and workshop spaces as well, and then a courtyard and a terrace. So it's like it has everything, which is crazy. So we're looking for these last funds to be able to finish up with everything so that the kitchen is finished.
Mhm.
Also to start financing our training programs, because the kitchen is nothing without its trainings, but it costs money to train as well, and we want it to be as accessible as possible, as well as renting out the kitchen. Of course, we can rent it out to companies who can pay, but we also really want to be able to rent it out to food creatives, chefs, food influencers, bartenders who won't have the means to pay so much for kitchen space. And I'm sure you know, like co-working kitchen spaces, like in the States or in Europe, they tend to be quite expensive because they are expensive to run. So we need that extra funding to be able to subsidize so that our Ghanaian food creatives can use the space as a resource, within their budgets too. So yeah, that's it. We're raising the money now. We are live on our website, and people can go in and they can choose different perks, and they can donate, and it's going well. It's not going as boom, maybe as we thought,
Mhm.
because on our side it was so much work to set it up, and maybe the world didn't like react as strongly as we thought they would, but it's been going steady though. So the it we are getting like a regular inflow of money, and like keeping this pace is looking quite good. Yeah.
Wonderful. I love that. I love that. One thing that we're all dealing with, obviously, is climate change and the whole climate crisis. How do the Ghana Food Movement work that into the work that you're doing to make sure that's at the forefront?
That's a really good question, and it's a very important part of our work, because we know, scientists knows, entrepreneurs knows, a lot of people in West Africa knows that our indigenous ingredients are the answers
Mhm.
to our food future, and we cannot continue to import the food we eat, and we cannot continue this like monocropping agriculture with pesticides and fertilizers that are damaging our soils, damaging our farmers. It's just never going to work in the long run, and we're being sold lies by the big Monsantos and Bill Gates and all of these agri-tech companies who are now coming to Africa to do a green revolution in Africa. And
Mm,
that is not what we need, and that is not what Ghana Food Movement stands for. Instead, we need to look at knowledge that was had by our ancestors,
mhm,
traditional knowledge and indigenous ingredients that are climate resilient, like fonio, sorghum, moringa, baobab. There are
mhm,
so many. And the sad thing is that these ingredients are becoming forgotten in our diets. We're not eating them as much anymore, especially not in Accra, in the capital. So the
mhm,
northern diet, it's important to know with Ghana, as it is in many countries, the south and the north is very different. There's much less economic and employability opportunities in the north. The south is the economic and the political center of Ghana. So in the north, they are more resourceful with their resources because they don't have so much, as you understand. So I think southern Ghana and Accra has so much to learn from northern food culture, in terms
mhm.
of resourceful, in terms of using all the parts of a plant or an ingredient. One example is wasa wasa. Wasa wasa is like a couscous, and it's made from yam peels. So they
Mm, mm.
use, instead of throwing away the peels or throwing it to the animals, they make a really nice couscous out of it that is super nutritious. So that's just one example, and we have many more.
Oh, I love that. And so I think what's important too, as you know, is that knowledge transfer down because even the youth nowadays have all of these options, and you see it, right? Getting away. I cringe when I hear like a Domino's or another American country is opening up in Africa. I'm just like, no, that is not the diet. Our diet is not the diet to introduce whatsoever. So I think it's just, with Ghana Food Movement and other organizations, so important to keep your eye on, like you said, those indigenous ingredients and that culture, because that's where we're going to come to in the future.
Exactly. And then we will introduce other cool things like a tiger nut burger. Instead of thinking
Mhm.
that Burger King is cool to go to, we're trying to show that you can actually make a burger from tiger nut. And tiger nut is a small tuber that is super nutritional. It has protein, it has fiber. Um, so we're just trying to make our indigenous foods cool, and reimagine the ways that we can cook with them. It doesn't have to be all the traditional recipes all the time. We can make like a plantain pizza and a tiger nut burger and a fonio kebab. If that's what the youth wants to eat, then we'll make that. That's fine, as long as they can eat nutritious food that is, produced in a sustainable way.
I love that. I love that. So we've got the kitchen opening, hopefully October. What else are you excited about? That's, can maybe give us a little clue into some other things that you're working on.
Sure. Well, so with the kitchen, like everything that we do is going to move into that building. So it's just we're not going to do anything new, but we're going to have an actual place to do it, and that is so exciting to me. And then one thing that is really going to allow is exchanges. So I'm so excited to be able to work with these organizations doing similar things in West Africa, in Africa, and all over the Black diaspora,
Mhm.
to build programs, exchange programs where youth can come to Ghana and learn about our food culture and culinary practices, and we can send our Ghanaian youth to other African countries, or to Brazil, or to Louisiana, or wherever it is in the world, because there is so much knowledge and there's so many passionate people when it comes to food. That's why we are sitting and having this conversation today. And I'm just gonna be so happy to be like, okay, we are here in Ghana, and you are invited, because
Oh,
that is an incredible resource. And then of course we will have to write all the grants and get all the money. But when every connection makes that easier, because you never know who has an opportunity or who knows someone that is interesting to fund. And even now when I'm in Sweden, I've started to work with this Swedish food movement called Reformaten, and their slogan is, it should be easy to eat right, and
mhm.
they are really
Love that.
working hard on policy for it to be more accessible with organic and locally produced food here in Sweden. So while I'm in Sweden, I'm also learning from them and seeing how they are working, and we're already talking about how, like, we're gonna do knowledge exchanges between Sweden and Ghana as well. It's just so much to learn and to connect over. Yeah.
Love that. And and to your point, there's as human beings, there's so much to learn from us as Black people, as African people, to learn from those that are not in our diaspora. And so, because we're all here, like you said, to eat right, to save the planet, and just to make sure every human has some good, nutritious food. So I love that knowledge transfer all over the world. So that is beautiful, beautiful. Well, Amy, if someone wants to support what's going on with Ghana Food Movement, how can they support you?
Okay, thank you for asking. So they can check us out on Ghana Food Movement's Instagram, and then on our website, ghanafoodmovement.com. And on the website, if you go to the kitchen and to the crowdfunding, you'll find all information about the kitchen, what we will be doing there. And you can also make a donation of any amount, or you can buy a perk. So we have a really cool collab with Alphabets that has made a really cool poster with some of our indigenous ingredients that you can click home. We have our Ghana Food Movement t-shirts. We have a Made in Ghana box where you can get some goodies from Ghana, and much more. So I think if people are interested, you should go and check out the website. And then I want to say that we're always open for collaborations. I want to invite you and everyone who listens to really reach out to me, or to me personally, or to the Ghana Food Movement's Instagram, or hello@ghanafoodmovement.com, if you want to exchange more, if you have ideas, if you're doing something similar. This is what it's about. And just being here talking to you today, like, it's always an opportunity. And I'm really, really thankful to be on this today.
Awesome. And just want to clarify, anyone from the around the world can donate. So the platform does take various it translates it into the currency that
Yeah,
you're fundraising in, but anyone, US, Europe.
anyone. So we have PayPal, Stripe, Momo if you're in Ghana. So there shouldn't be any issues. And if there are, you'll find a support email to email. And yeah. And yeah, we're just looking for people who wants to follow our journey. And if you can't donate, of course, like a follow on Instagram or a reference to a friend that might be able to, is always welcome as well.
Awesome. And then finally, if someone wants to join Africa Food Movement, how just go to the website and reach on out?
Yeah, so Ghana Food Movement, not Africa Food Movement yet. But I think the best way is to send us a DM on Instagram, or an email to hello@ghanafoodmovement.com. So that can be people in Ghana who wants to join the movement, or people who wants to collaborate, or people, doing movements in other parts of the world. And maybe since I'm on this platform, I would also say that we are really interested.
I'm gonna let me redo that since I did say Africa. So let me redo that question. So, Amy, if someone wants to join Ghana Food Movement, do they just go to the website or how do they connect?
I think the easiest way is DM on Instagram or write to hello@ghanafoodmovement.com. In any way you want to reach, anything you want to reach out to us about, those two channels are great. Um, and the other thing I wanted to say, since I'm on this channel, I know a lot of foodies are listening, is that we are really interested in learning and getting inspired by models of training in kitchens and also offering food experiences. So that is the type of model we are working on now for our kitchen in Ghana, that how we connect providing food experiences with youth always getting trained. And that's so exciting. This is a side note, but it's just so exciting with Ghana because there's a lot of people finding Ghana now as a destination. And politicians, that is one thing that the Ghanaian politicians have been good at, to really position Ghana um, as a first country to travel to in Africa, for example, and for the diaspora to come home. And we are trying to ride on that wave as well, to show all the people now coming back that come back and be conscious about where you put your money and what you consume as well, because there's no point in going to Ghana if you're just going to eat Italian and Japanese food that are from restaurants that are owned by foreigners. So that's another important thing for us.
Awesome. So there's a monetary donation, but what about in kind? So if someone has an appliance store or something that to go into the hub, definitely welcome those as well.
Yes, yes, yes. All donations. So if it's in-kind donations, then to write to us, hello@ghanafoodmovement.com, and we'll talk about it.
Awesome. Well, Amy, this has been wonderful. I'm excited. I can't wait. Of course, we're going to stay in touch, and I'm excited to see how everything unfolds. So thank you for sharing this with me today and with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for putting me on. And I'm really speaking on behalf of the whole Ghana food movement, that we are really, really happy to share our story with the world. And this means so, so much. And this is not the last you see of us. We have just started.
Absolutely. And look forward to following your journey. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.